agenda, I am going to go over a few topics that encompass the city as a whole, but specifically in Ward 3. After all of our presentations, we will have a question and answer section where you are able to have answer or say any questions you want, and I will answer them. If I do not have the answers, we have everyone over every department within the city that may be able to answer them for you. If not, we'll take your name and number and make sure we get back with you. So the first thing we're going to go over is some road pavings that have been done in Ward 3. This is not saying this is only what we are doing. This is just what has been done so far since 2020. As you can see, the numbers are very small up here, which is why I printed them all for you all to see. So far, we have done West 15th Street, Goodwin and Knox Avenue, Keith Avenue, Front Street, Grant Avenue, South Allen Avenue, West 14th Street, West 15th and a half Alley, as well as Layton Avenue, which we just completed recently. The next road that I am completing before the next fiscal year will be Nakasika Trails and an alley near that area. What I did when I was first elected, along with city staff, specifically the Public Works Director, is we created a 5-year road paving plan. So we were able to assess all the roads, specifically in Ward 3, based off of travel, based off the number of people that live in that area, and based off what that road looks like. So again, there are very limited funds. We are really working hard to make sure we try to get as many roads accomplished within the next couple of years. We have really great partners that I want to mention. The County Commission works really hard with us in making sure that we can get these roads paved. Specifically, Commissioner Fred Wilson, I do want to give him a huge shout out, as well as former Commissioner Tim Hodges, who helped me with some earlier roads during the first couple of years of when I was elected. And they also helped us fund it, as well as CDBG. CDBG helped us fund West 15th and a half Alley, which was done in 2022 as well. As you can see, all these numbers are here, so if you have any questions at the end, specifically about these roads, you may ask. Also, in the past year, we have had around 30 demolitions that have occurred in the last year. Specifically, I believe these have been done on the west side of Anniston, more so than on any other side. And if anyone wants those addresses, I do have a copy of those addresses. We have, in some of our capital projects, some park upgrades. We are currently working on Hills Park. We will install a new playground equipment, which has already been installed. A new splash pad has been installed, and that was programmed on Monday, May 1st, which was this week. A new deck shade has been installed. Building eaves have been repaired, and new signs have been ordered. They should be delivered and installed prior to the opening of Memorial Day weekend. We'll make sure she gets copies and whoever else wants them. So we're going to go over a bit of school funding. I also do have more detailed lists of school funding that has been given to the school since 2020. If you guys would like that, just ask me after, but it's so much information, I couldn't just put it all in the script. So there are different pots of money that come from the city to the school system. There are closure taxes, which are taxes that go through the county because they are property taxes, or the funds that come from like your tax and licenses. And those are put into a pool and sent straight through the city. From the city, we send it straight through, straight to the school system. Aside from that, we have a supplemental fund, which are funds that are not mandated by state legislation to give to the schools. However, the council decides to give those funds based off of the request of the school board. So if they're asking for funding for a particular program, we've been able to do so. Not only that, in 2018, there was a 20% sales tax ordinance that was established. Was it 2018? Yes, 2018 that was established, and it was only, there was a limit on that particular 20% sales tax that was given to the schools. So it lasted 2018, 2019, and 2020. In 2021, when I was elected at the end of 2020, 2021, was it 2022 when we looked back at it, we decided to make it retroactive after that term ended, where the schools will receive all that funding. But instead of it being just for workforce development, we changed that ordinance to state that it was for educational programs as a whole. Since then, and it's listed on here, we've been able to give funding for The Modern Manufacturing Program, if I'm not mistaken, the first amount of money they received was about $80,000. Additionally, after that, recently we have given them $97,000 for that same program. They will have an opening, I believe, in the next couple of weeks for that specific program. We have also agreed to pay for the HFI case officer position. What that is a position that specifically combats truancy within our school system. I believe it was 2022, we had a 45% chronic absenteeism rate within our school system, meaning our students were not going to school at all. When they're not going to school, they are absolutely not learning. So I thought it was extremely important to make sure that we partnered with the school systems in introducing to them programs that can help combat truancy. With that being said, myself, Dr. Hill, Jackson Hodges, Shannon Jenkins with United Way, the DA, and Anniston folks had a meeting to discuss the HFI program about a year and a half ago. It was finally implemented this year, and we are continuing to pay for that position. In 2020, you will see between supplemental funds and taxes, they received over $3.6 million. 2021, over $3.6 million. 2022, $4.5 million, and so far in 2023, $4.2 million. Again, if you have any questions about that, I can go into more detail at the end. So these are current projects and programs that are being funded by our CDBG program. And again, these are currently, some have already been completely funded, correct? Okay, so some projects is Habitat Home in Jacksonville, our senior center, Bocce Court, the paving of Delwood Court, our Davis Hatcher and St. Michael's Medical Center and Community Learning Center, which is right here. We will go over that in our capital project updates. But that is exactly how this center will look, and it's actually about to be completed and hopefully in July. Demolition of blighted structures, which in the past year we've been able to do about 30 of those in Ward 3 alone. Affordable housing development in Hudson City. Again, these funds are part of consortium, correct? Where they're not entitled just to the city of Anniston. So other cities can request this funding. Those programs that have been funded are the YES program, which is the Youth Empowered to Succeed, which is help provide summer work salaries for our young teens. Our St. Michael's Clinic, medical care for the uninsured, community enabler food bank, the Right Place, housing for chronically homeless housing support, All Saints Center of Concern, which is used for utility and rental assistance, and Interfaith Ministries, which is used for emergency assistance. So we've had a lot of amazing things going down on Main Street, which is downtown Anniston. We've just listed some to highlight. A lot of buildings and properties are being bought out and renovated as we speak. The Crest has reopened their doors. It is now a formal event venue. So if you're having a birthday party, a wedding, anything, it's a very, very beautiful historic place. I would highly recommend them. Formerly Taiwan Odd, we used to have a Thai restaurant in downtown Anniston. However, Sam, who was the owner, decided to move back to Thailand. So we had some new owners buy that building, and it's now Pasito's Mexican Kitchen. We also have where the old Griffin Jurors building used to be. Someone bought that property. Actually, his name is Justin Hall, if I'm not mistaken. He recently bought that, and it's going to be called Old Noble, which is going to be a really nice gift shop for people to come to. Main Street Anniston has currently initiated a Adopt a Block program where volunteers became planter parents who will maintain flower beds and flower pots throughout the year. What we realized is when people go downtown, they don't want it to look dusty. We want our downtown to have a really nice appearance, and people don't think, oh, planting flowers or cleaning up the sidewalks or painting buildings makes a difference when it really, really, truly does. And so that's a really good program. Just a reminder, Noble Street Festival is this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's supposedly going to be our biggest one yet, so I highly recommend that you all go out there. There's going to be a lot of vendors for food and rides for your kids to enjoy. Additionally, we also had an Arts and Entertainment District, which went into effect in March. So right now, I'm going to hand it over to our Public Information Director, Relations Director, and he's going to go over the next few slides about some grants and opportunities for you all.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman. Hi, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. Real quick, so I was tasked to give you guys grants, opportunities, things going on in the community. We're going to start with home repairs. Super important issue all throughout our community. Communities everywhere. And all that information out. There are 3 requirements, and these are common requirements in most home repair programs, because I'm going to go over another one here in a second. You own the home in the corporate city limits of the city. You are either over the age of 60, you have a disability, or are low income. You can be any of those. And then the property must be, again, the residential property that you own as your primary residence. So this program ran through the Community Foundation, the big building on Quinn Chart, and so is the next one we'll talk about. There's another home repair program. The one I just talked about, our Anniston Chambers one, probably that one opens in cycles. Once we get a set, we can only do so many and we close it. We're about to open that back up. But the Credit Union Partners Helping Hand Foundation Fund is yearly. It is always taking applicants. It's essentially the same program. It's $2,500 for repairs. You have to live in an area served by one of the credit unions, which we do. We have AOD and the other credit unions here. Again, you need the age, income, or you face a disability, and you have an immediate need. So basically, what we've seen sometimes working with these home repairs is if you need a full renovation, it's just going to be beyond our abilities. We're limited ourselves. But if your bathtub is sinking into the bathroom, or if your deck is flooded, you need to be able to access your deck and get down from your home because you may be in a wheelchair or something. Absolutely help with that. I'm happy to, and I'm happy to answer your questions. You can apply for this one anytime. It's online too at the Community Foundation. You can call their number if maybe getting online is difficult, and they will help you do a paper application. And same with Anniston Chambers, we're happy to help do that too.
And sorry to interrupt you, Jackson. Also, I know a lot of these links you can't see. I didn't realize it till after the fact. If any of you want this information or the links, I will send you this entire. I can send you the link separately, or I can send you this entire presentation just for you to look over.
Absolutely, yeah. And then real quickly through other things, got a business. Really, the only business grant-related opportunity that's kind of out and about right now. East Alabama, Regional Planning and Development Commission. Has a revolving loan program. This can go up to $100,000 or $250,000 based on it. It's a low rate interest loan to start a business, to refurbish a building. It's really multifunctional. They have a whole staff of people there that can answer questions about it. But it's an opportunity. If you've got a good business idea, you're pretty confident you can make money on the back end and start a business. You can kick back and pay that loan down. But again, it's a manageable interest rate. It's for helping people start businesses. You have the Small Business Development Center, JSU, where you can get free services anytime for structuring your business plan, how to do your taxes for the business, insurance considerations, how to handle your cash flow and financial statements, which would be great if you took out a business loan. That's what you're going to need to figure out. That's anytime. You can call the county chamber down there on Quinn Card, call Coffee, because they work closely with them and can refer you also. But free business plans, all that, it's totally free service. They're happy to help anything. Tax credits is kind of a complicated thing. Not necessarily if you need help, you can give me a call. But if you have a building on West 15th Street in that historic district right in front of where that mural is, or if you have a building on Noble Street, pretty much a whole big chunk of Noble Street, you can apply for these tax credits. When you begin to refurbish the building, it has to be at the beginning. The way it works, if I spend $100 and qualify for rehabilitation expenditures, which is fancy word for saying things I had to spend money on to get the building back to a usable state, you get that $100 back in 25% increments over a 5-year period. So you get your money back a little bit at a time over 5 years. Because there are 2 tax credits. One is the states, one is the federal government, and you can do both of them staggered together. brownfield grant is if you buy a property and it is contaminated, like let's say you buy an old gas station, there's going to be oil and gas in the ground, and the Alabama Department of Environmental Management is going to stop you from doing anything before we do it. Environmental contamination is an issue we just faced in our community and have for some time. You can apply to these grants. They can help with things like asbestos. They can help with other different types of pollutants that you may have in the ground or in the property. You have to clean them up. It's worth looking into. That's one where some of this goes above my head. We do have staff that have experience doing these grants, so we can help that also. But it's something to look into. Sean's looking at any opportunity you can. Outside of that, individual assistance, if you are needing food, shelter, if you are needing clothing assistance or hygiene needs, Anniston has a super great network of nonprofits, and you can access many of them 24/7. It's a simple number, 211. It's a United Ways hotline. They work between all the different nonprofits in the community. You can call that 24/7 and tell them what you need and what you're looking for. They can connect you to whether it's on heating or interfaith or whatever the need is. They can help connect you to that. Outside of that, local event coming up in Weaver. We got a free food giveaway at the Cornerstone Church there, May 16th and May 17th. That free food giveaway starts at 6 p.m. at 613 Weaver Lane. Weaver, Cornerstone Church, Weaver, and the City of Anniston is hiring. We always have some job openings. Check them out on the website. You don't need it.
Yes, so what I'm going to get him to do is we're going to go on the city's website real quick. A lot of times if people can't reach me or if they're not getting through to the city, I want to teach you all how to, and if you can't, you just can't. I mean, it is what it is. We'll do what we have to do, but I think that this is a great resource to use when you want to put in a work order.
Yeah, so definitely this is our website. Granted, not everyone has access to the internet, and then granted further too, the internet doesn't come natural to everybody. I totally understand that. I still look at people on type, I just think that different things for different people, we all face different things. The website is here though, and it is here for you to use. You pull it up on your computer, and if your neighbor has a car that's broken down in the front yard, put a toilet in the road, throwing trash out everywhere, you can do several things. You may not know where to go for just looking at these things, but that's why we have this box up here. Citizen Resources is going to pretty much be a button you can click on for anything that is like any need you can think of, basically, that a citizen may have in the community. So if they're doing something like they're being really loud at night, or they have a broken down car in their yard, or they have a toilet out in the yard, or mattress, things that we all see, you can report that. That's a code violation, first off. You just click that button, and it's a simple, your name, your address, email. There is a toilet in the yard, and that shouldn't be there. Okay, you need to give them a picture of it, let them know, and you send that in. It goes right to our code department, which is Tana and Jason and others. They do a great job of that. And then if you've got, let's say you have brush or debris, like a tree limb, and you put all your stuff where it goes, and they forgot to pick it up. If you need a new Republic trash can, if you have a pothole in your community, or if you're wanting a road paved, or you have any of these infrastructural needs, this work order request is really easy to do, and it goes straight to Avanti and David, our Public Works Director. And let me tell you this, because I can download where all these requests come from on a map, and there are some that report things more often than others, and my advice to our community, if you're going to do it online, great. You can always call us too, and department contact and call the person and have it done. But report things until it gets done. Report. The thing is, in some areas where things need to be done the most, they are reported the least. And that's, again, whether you do it through the website or you do it through the phone numbers, don't be afraid to let us know about something, because we're happy to do it. And definitely keep letting us know. Things come up, emergencies happen, and the priority order of things get shifted around. But if you keep reporting it. We usually get to it quickly, but if you keep that up with us, we will get to it and take care of it. Outside of that, the rest of this is pretty straightforward. As I was telling you, your job openings are here. You can also pay your garbage bill and stuff online through here. If you want to pay it over the phone, you have those numbers there, information on other things as well. So that's about it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jackson. Okay. So now we're going to go over some capital project updates, which is super exciting to me. Our Dr. David Satcher and St. Michael's Health Clinic and Community Learning Center is scheduled to be completed by July 2023. I don't know if you guys have rode out that way near Glenaddy, but this is what the construction will look like once it is completed in July. I believe we will have a ribbon cutting once that is completed, so you all can come out and see what it looks like and the things that we are going to do with it. I think that this will be a really great resource with what we're doing possibly with our homeless, I want to call it a shelter, but we'll go into more detail about what we're doing with that. A lot of people are uninsured in our city, and we want to make sure that we have a resource for them to be able to get the meds that they need or to be able to be checked out. And St. Michael's has been a great partner with us for so long. RMC is also a partner with us in this endeavor. Our Chief Ladiga Trail, the planning is moving along schedule. That is projected to be bid out August 2023 and completed fall 2024. We did have an update on that during our work session. Today is Thursday, so on Tuesday. So we're moving along pretty well on that. Our downtown market is projected to be complete by July 2023, which is this summer. This is what this will look like for you all to see. And then, of course, at the end, you guys can go up here and take pictures if you want. And it's going to be an open air market where vendors can come. We can have events there, fresh foods, our farmers market. Just a nice place for all of us to convene and have a really good time. Our downtown park at 11th and Noble Playground, downtown park, and 11th and Noble, as well as our playground /5 improvements for Zen Park, are projected to be complete by May 2023. This is a rendering of our park on 11th and Noble, which is currently being worked on right now. So if you go down there near 11th and Noble, you'll see this. Not quite this quite yet, but it'll be there. Which will be great for our festivals and our entertainment district that is coming up. When people are going out and having a good time. I'm not done. I think I just messed myself up. Okay, we completed the fire training center, it was completed in March 2023. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. I mean, it's really great for our region. If you have any questions about our fire training center at the end, our fire chief is here to answer those. So we are relocating the city hall. As you all know, we have been at the Anniston Star, the newspaper building, for the past at least since I've been in office, I think about 3 years at this point. And so about last year, we decided that we are going to be moving to the old courthouse, which is here. This is just a plan of where all the buildings will, or all the departments will be once we move. We're going through some process, I believe, with the GSA as we speak. If you have any questions about that, Mr. Folks and I can answer them at the end as well. But this is where all the departments will be, and we're super excited to be relocating to downtown. So you guys don't have to go all the way down the road to get to us. So, as you all know, at my last town hall, the city council created a homeless coalition that encompassed several organizations that were working together to find a solution for our homeless population within this city. This is something that has been an issue for several years within the city of Anniston, and I'm super excited to say we may have found not necessarily a solution, but a plan to be proactive and help this population. We have Kyle Bryan with us, who's going to go over what this will look like and the plans that are to be made and what this will be like in the next coming years. I am short, y'all. Okay, and you just slide on.
Okay. So, like Ciara said, my name is Kyle Bryan. I'm the program director for the Martha Vandervoort Center to End Homelessness, which is our proposed solution to homelessness here in the city of Anniston. I think most of you probably know that there's a pretty substantial homelessness issue here in Anniston. If you're in the downtown area, if you're around Interfaith Ministries or at the Soup Bowl, you know that many of our homeless neighbors are there. And the primary time that we have any sort of shelter for them is during the cold weather months when the warming station opens. And so what we're hoping to do is to create the Martha Vandervoort Center to End Homelessness, which we're calling for short Martha's Hope. And of course that's named after the late director of Interfaith Ministries, Ms. Martha Vandervoort, who did so much good work among our homeless folks. So I just want to share with you a little bit about that. So we're hoping to build this facility, which is an emergency and transitional housing facility. We're hoping to build it at 1411 Gurney Avenue. Perhaps some of you recognize this building. Ms. Maldine Holloway served there for many, many years before she relocated to the old Carpenter UMC building, community enabler. This is the proposed site. This is where we're hoping to demo this building and construct a new facility, new modern facility to really address the chronic homelessness needs here in our community. There's a digital rendering of kind of what we're looking at. It's a Gurney side view, another side view. Just to give you an idea, I know that we all see our homeless neighbors, our unhoused neighbors, but we really do have a pretty substantial issue. This number is incorrect. We actually provided 52 nights at the warming station this year, and we served, that number is correct, 148 unique individuals with an average of about 45 folks an evening. So we have a pretty substantial issue and a pretty kind of problem that we need to work towards addressing. So as Ciara said, the city created a community task force on homelessness to really address these issues. 3 partners sort of rose to the top that seem to be pretty well equipped to address this. The city of Anniston, of course, our municipality is to be involved in this sort of solution. United Way of East Central Alabama, and then Anniston First United Methodist Church, which is where the property is located. Actually, in the process of acquiring the property as we speak. Will be the emergency housing units. So those will be when you typically think of a shelter, you typically think of bunk beds, and so that's pretty much what that facility will be. You'll have a men's side and you'll have a women's side. You'll have privacy because there will be partitions between the different beds, but those are really for people who are in emergent situations, not folks who are actively working to get out of homelessness and into self-sufficiency. So that's on the first level. On the second level, the bottom level, we have transitional housing units, and these are private dorm room style accommodations, double occupancy, so folks would have a roommate. Ideally, we would keep it single, but we want to make sure we can maximize capacity. And we would be able to serve 40 individuals in that section. And then, I didn't say this, but both the emergency and the transitional housing have family units. So there are 2 family units that accommodate 4, and that there's a private ensuite bathroom. What makes this proposal different than typical congregate shelters is this component. Oh, I want to tell you this too. The Transitional Living Center it will be named after Ms. Maldine Holloway, for the Holloway House, because she has done so much good work there, and she continues to do good work for our homeless neighbors, and we want to honor her in the best way we can, and we thought that just made sense. But what makes this different than most typical shelters is there will be programmatic services, and the main difference is there will be case management. That is one of the challenges that we have in our community among most of our agencies and nonprofits, is that the case management is just not there. the licensed social workers are just not there. So what we're planning to do is to have licensed social workers on staff that work with individuals that come in through the emergency and the transitional housing section. So if, for instance, if you're in emergency housing and you have been there for 3 nights, you're getting assigned a case manager. Okay, because what we want to do is we don't want to leave people where they are. We want to move them to transitional housing, and then with the goal of helping move them to permanent housing through partnerships with organizations such as the Right Place. So that's pretty much what I have. I could talk ad nauseam about this, but I'm sure that y'all have some questions at the end, and I'll be happy to answer any of those.
And I think it's super important to note the difference between this initiative and an actual homeless shelter is we don't want these people to stay stagnant. You know, we want people to be able to move forward with their lives. If they're having drug issues, how can we help them with rehabilitation? If they're having financial issues, how can we help them find a job? You know, we want them to be able to move forward in whatever area that is in their life. Thank you, Kyle, by the way. And if you guys have any questions, and of course, we can bring this back up. We are having a lot of great things going on with the Anniston Housing Authority. We actually have Ms. Terry who will come up and kind of just give you guys a few updates on what's going on with them and in partnership with the city. I have also put up a picture, which she will talk about as she comes up here, of this new development that we will have coming up in the coming year or two.
Well, I'm Terry Lloyd, the Planning and Development Officer at the Anniston Housing Authority. Our Executive Director could not be here, which is Greg Fortner. He's actually out of town, so he asked me to represent the Housing Authority for him. Right now, if you haven't been to Barber Terrace, which is a beautiful property on the hill, that's a $14 million property that we brought online actually starting in January. That does have tax credits attached to it, as well as home funds that was awarded by the city of Anniston, and also the city of Anniston donated land, so we could build one of the buildings on that site as well. I was there Monday, on building 5 now, on taking down the old structures. We right now have no plans to build back on the site where the old structures are, just because of the topography of the ground there. But that's a major project that we just brought on. We have 60 units there at Barber Terrace. 31 of those have already moved in. We have residents living in those. And we do have a waiting list right now of 264 people. We're hoping to have a complete move-in by the middle of June, to where we're 100% occupied in June. So that's one thing, the big step, because it's a great property. If you haven't seen it, we had our open house on April the 20th and had just great response from everybody. It's a very modern, it's anywhere from 1 to 4 bedroom units. So that's one thing. When we came to the city and brought our next project, which is actually 0 South Allen, we purchased this land through our nonprofit, which is the HDC, Housing Development Corporation. And so it's an acre property here. We started doing a duplex mix with single units as far as 1 and 2 bedrooms. But when we met with the city, we looked at our mix on our waiting list for public housing, and our big need is 1 and 2 bedroom units in the city. And so what we did is we went to 14 units, which is going to be like 2 duplexes, and the rest are going to be townhomes, which will be the 2 bedroom units. But we'll be building 14 residential apartments there. So that is hoping to come online hopefully the 1st of next year. We're just waiting to get some clearance on the funding. We've already passed our environmentals as far as the topography. We had to do borings on the site just because of the slope to make sure there was not a previous structure. I've got the preliminary report and I see no problems with that. So the structure itself is going to be roughly $33 million, and we have applied with the city of Anniston with the home ARP funds, and hoping to work with your partnership as well, because some of the stipulations is a homeless population, and also having house people that's coming out of the foster system as well. Veterans is a big demand for us too, and we are looking to apply for grants with HUD, which is actually out right now, to see if we can get some of the VASH vouchers attached to these units. But they will be rental assistant units with the home funds, so there will be income caps for the residents themselves. But we're ready we're very excited. We are at the final stages of our plans now to actually build structures. Tinsley Manor, that's our last project. If you come down that avenue, when you're coming down Wade's Barbecue, and you see Tinsley, and you see that acre of lot right there at the freeway stop, and then Barber Terrace, we want that as a gateway, as far as the, Anniston. Because if we can do all these improvements, we're gonna put over $1 million in Tinsley, we've already started that. So we'll actually start doing, relocation of residents on site, so they'll actually maintain the same site. But we're gonna start doing exterior renovations next on Tinsley, so that's gonna be a major improvement to South Allen.
Thank you, Ms. Terry. All right. I know we have given you a plethora of information, probably a lot to swallow at this point. So before we open up question and answer, I'm going to have each person individual over here just give you guys their name and their title so you're familiar with who is here from the municipality in case you have any questions regarding their position. We'll start with David.
Hey, Garnett, Public Works Director. Jesse Brown, Farm Works. Jeff Walter, Fire Chief. Nick Bowles, Police Chief. Freddie Burrows, Parks and Recreation.
Elisa James, CDBG and Home Coordinator.
Stephen Foster, Citizen. And Jason, expound a little more on what you do besides finance.
So the Farm Works.
Public Relations Director, we have Ms. Terry with Anniston Housing Authority. Kyle will be here for our, I call it a homelessness coalition every time, but it's just task force, so anything regarding that, you can answer that as well. Hope I didn't miss anyone, but we'll go ahead and just really go into our question and answer portion. We'll go one at a time, just raise your hand. Ms. Carter?
Can I ask you guys, what is the boundaries for West Anniston?
As far as,
What street to street to street to street? North, south, east, and
I wish I would have brought that map, because we have a map with each ward. So it goes all the way from around Constantine, what, past Norwood? Is that it?
You
Down
can
there?
show Ms. Carter, I'll make sure someone gives you a call tomorrow.
Okay, and the reason I ask that is because when we were doing the PCB stuff, our boundaries for West Anniston were from 10th Street up to 23rd, and from Norwood over to McDaniel. So that's what I was trying to figure out, what you guys consider West Anniston.
Correct, okay. We can get a map sent over to Ms. Carter and highlight what West Anniston is. But I would say she's correct.
As far as
Ms. Carter, will you-
and
I'll
Melvin
give you-
Bridge, West changes after you cross over Norwood, and changes when you cross over 10th Street. So she's correct.
From 10th through, okay.
That's physical mailing. I don't know if she's looking at board or not.
Okay. Next question. Mr. Harrison?
Good evening. Now, you answered my main question that I had the other night was with, because the last time we were here,
Yes, sir.
one of the things I want to ask about is the Satchel Center when it opens. And I looked at the streets that have been paved. I hope that street is going to be paved as well that runs in front of the Satchel Center, because that street has not been paved in over 30 years.
Yes, sir.
And it is rough.
Yes, sir. And you guys are all, let me stand up so somebody can see you. When I was elected, we created that 5-year pavement plan road. And so we assess those roads by the amount of people that live in that area, the amount of traffic that they have, and the condition of the road. Now, that can change yearly. So if there are roads that you want me to personally assess, I don't mind doing it. Please remember, there are very limited funds, but we're trying to get as many roads as possible while we can.
The next question is right-of-ways. If you would just write about, on my end, the interest rate, my neighbor and I take care of that to make sure it looks nice. But the rest of it, just go by and look at the ones that they did this week. This is the first time they've done it this year. So please go by and look at them.
Yes, sir.
And then the next thing is, I hate going.
The city can just tell somebody to come here and bring the grocery store, or we want you to bring a business here. It simply does not work that way, and I really wish it did. The best thing that we can do at this moment in this is the correct professional opinion, but we've got to start putting into our community in a greater way. You go into a certain part of Anniston, people are, a big developer is not gonna come in and say, hey, I wanna put a window seat here. They're not gonna do it. They don't base it just off of neighborhoods, they base it off of the amount of traffic that's coming in, the amount of money that's coming in. It's based off of a lot of things, so it's not as easy as just saying, hey, the city of Anniston, we need to have a grocery store here, which I agree. We should at least have a grocery store in both South Anniston and West Anniston to make it more accessible for all people. But it's gonna take us time to get there. The biggest thing that I say right now, we're gonna have to have private investors come into these areas and build things like a mini mart or a small grocery store, and that takes someone with money coming in and doing so. So I agree with you.
It doesn't have to be a large one, just a small store where actually people don't have to live. Yeah, and I'm not talking about Dollar General either. And they can go and purchase their groceries and not have to go all the way across town.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Again, that's gonna have to be privately owned and funded. In any other neighborhood, we don't have mini marts, we don't have those things. Those things are gonna have to be privately owned and funded. I think that's something that we can all band together and do, but I don't know necessarily if that is something that the city is going to do, because they don't do it in any other neighborhood either. Next question.
I appreciate what y'all did coming down Layton, that's
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
But when you get to A in Layton, they started right down the other side of 19 Hole and coming up A Street, that is a disaster. Because I think they ran some lines or something up in Layton, but they didn't come back and repair it. And then go to 3rd Street where Miss Week used to live. That is terrible.
River Street?
No, 3rd Street.
Okay.
Yeah, when you coming off of Layton, when you turn on 3rd Street, they was doing repairs, but they did not go back and finish what they started.
Okay.
And one other thing I have a problem with, Dane Chapel is one of our oldest churches in South Anniston. If you go right down 8 and Christine, it's a great big dip in front of that church. It should have been repaired by now. They come out and put a patch right there. That's a Band-Aid, that's not repairing that dip. And you know, and I don't know if the members at the church complain about it, but I'm complaining about it because I live in the neighborhood and I think it needs to be repaired. It may not take that much, and you may not have the funds, but we need to look into it for real, seriously.
David, did you get that?
We complained about that. I'm a member of Gang Scout.
Okay, I didn't see you come in.
We complained about that about 2.5, 3 years ago.
Okay.
Next question. Mr. Glenn?
And I think I mentioned this on the backside of Corner School, since they got turning around, that road coming down there. I have 14 is good, when you get a red light, take a right or left, that road gets bad.
Did you hear him? Pass.
And so it give the kids some pride when you come into school, look at something nice, and they can appreciate what you think.
Yes, sir. Ms. Carter?
I have a question for the young man with the homeless. How long are the clients able to stay in the emergency rooms, and how long are they able to stay in the other?
Okay, so HUD, for the transitional living facility, HUD allows 2 years. But the ideal time really, if you want to maximize rapid rehousing and vouchers, which Ciara alluded to a little bit, 6 months is the ideal time for the transitional living center, and then you transition into permanent housing for the right place with Anniston Housing Authority. But for the emergency, it's nightly. It's a nightly intake. After 3 days, you get a case manager, even if you're just in emergency. The case managers will help folks in the transitional facility as they navigate moving back to self-sufficiency and into permanent housing. But for the emergency housing, we don't want people to be dependent on that. We want to move them along. And moving them along may be moving them into the transitional living facility. It may be moving them along to a different community that can better suit their needs, have more resources, whatever that means for them. So,
I have one more question for the chief of police. What what is the area that has the worst crime in Anniston?
That's a pretty broad statement. What do you mean area? We answer most of our calls actually in Blue Mountain. That's the most call.
That's an area.
Yeah.
That's the one where the most crime is.
It's also big.
Yeah.
It's also a big area.
So is there a lot of crime in West Anniston?
Does that include rural or just?
No, it includes Louisville. That's gonna be like 28th Street, 27th Street to about 431 and everything west. That's that.
Yes, ma'am.
Do the city come out and cut the bushes and the trees and things? Because I have been calling since last year about a tree in front of my house. Now the roots is beginning to come up out of the ground in front of the tree. I had some limbs to fall, and I got pictures of it, but I didn't bring my phone. And they came out and got that. But since then, another limb has fallen, and before that, a limb fell. And my grandbabies had just left off the sidewalk. I called, and they're documenting, and so am I. The last time that before, I called last week. She said I called December the 20th, and she said it would be after the first of the year before somebody would come out. Okay, they said if the tree is not rotten, they won't do anything. But if the limbs are falling, something is rotten.
So if the tree is dying, the city can, but if it is not dying, they cannot. But what we can do, something that we can, what's today, Thursday? I don't mind making ride out there tomorrow to look. I don't know if it can be done tomorrow, but at least to take a look.
Yeah, we're.
About
So, if we ride out there and it's an emergency, we can do something, yes. But
and then we can take a better look at it on next week. Okay. I'll get your number after this.
I know that.
Okay.
I know that.
Okay.
I have several questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I've emailed you a couple of times and you did take care of like the demolition lots that you all have, and the grass end up getting overgrown and stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
Each time that I did email you, you did have somebody come out and cut the grass.
Yes, ma'am.
Now that summer is coming, the grass is starting to grow up high again. Do I need to email you?
You can,
about
or
that?
you can email me, or you can put in a request, but that is something we do need to talk about, as a whole within the city. So there are a lot of lots that are not owned, they are privately owned, they're not owned by the city. With that being said, the city is not technically required to maintain these lots, however, they do become nuisance to neighbors. I'm absolutely aware of that. So the city will come out and they will at least try once a year to, cut the grass or fix those areas if they are an emergency. So just send it to me and we'll have it assessed at that point. But please be patient with us, as, again, you guys see it everywhere. Those properties are overgrown, and again, those are privately owned. It's so hard for us to maintain.
But it's
They
not
have more,
only,
they have more.
yeah, it's not only, cause like the last time I was also down by the railroad tracks. See, I live down by, in the Constantine Front Street area. They came and they'll cut the grass like part way, but they haven't cleared the whole area where it's overgrown. I mean, it looks terrible. It really
You
looks
said
terrible.
it's Constantine, between
The
Constantine and Front
Constantine Front Street area.
On the railroad tracks?
Yes, right there by the railroad tracks. That railroad tracks, they don't use that track for anything anymore. And it's so overgrown, and it looks bad for the, for the neighborhood and
Yes,
stuff.
ma'am.
Also, Franklin Park, are you all gonna redo that, Franklin Park, Benny Ray Park?
As far as doing upgrades to it?
Yes.
It's currently not on the list to upgrade, but that's something I can pay
Yeah,
close attention
I
to.
think they went ahead and they took out all the equipment, so it's nothing for children to do at that park.
This is what we would do with Benry Park, using it for softball teams and things like that on the weekend. We can look at if there's a need for some playground equipment, we can look at that. We'll look at it.
That's something I don't think.
Yes.
Because it is children in the area, and the closest park is Constantine, or either Hudson City, you know.
But I want to keep in mind, the reason the equipment was taken out because it was antiquated and unsafe.
Yeah,
That's why it was-
and I understand
That's
that.
why it was taken out.
Okay.
Yeah, my question was, you know, do they plan on putting in some new equipment?
In this next fiscal year, maybe that's something that we can look at in moving forward.
Okay. Where I live, I have to go up an alley to get, you know, the park in my yard, because we don't have like parking, it's hard to park on the street. So, how do I go in and put a request, because that alley hasn't been
To
paid.
get the alley paid?
Yes.
Send me a direct email.
Okay.
And with the address, just so I can look at it and assess it. I like to get estimates from our public works, so I know how much we are working with, just so when we get, each ward has a specific amount of funds that can be used for paving, just so I can look at it and see how much I can use for it. Ms. Harrington?
I realize I'm late, but I had an appointment with my grandson. I don't know if they mentioned it or not. Anybody said anything about Elm Street on the side of the Constantine and the park that faces the head start? It hasn't been anything done to it since 1975, because I've been here.
Oh, paving? You did mention that to me. Come on, paving. Yes, ma'am. No one mentioned it here, but you did mention that to me before, so I do have it. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I turned my chair around because, when I was in the workforce, I learned about ergonomics. And I think it's kind of bad that we got the head table up here, we got people facing that way, we need to face the people that we call. And the thing that I wanted to, there's a couple of things I wanted to address. There was talking when we first got started about demolition. What's the ratio of renovation and construction, new construction, compared to demolition in the city, in this area? We're tearing them down.
I don't know if I don't know if any of us have that exact ratio. Do you have?
I'm working on a number, because of course I'm still going a few years back to look at it, but right now there are no new bills that have happened.
Well, I tell you, it's in the negative.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's in the negative. And another thing that really, we look for development in Anniston, but we can't develop anything if we're constantly bypassing Anniston. You got bypass over here, you got bypass over there. It's like it's a performative chokehold put on the city. The police department had outlaw ban chokehold because it was a bad thing. And what we're doing, we're legalizing choking the life out of Anniston. Like my man said a while ago about not having a grocery store or somewhere that you can go and buy food in West Anniston and South Anniston. And we're not doing anything about it. I know that Winn-Dixie and Pick-and-Save or somebody else may not be looking for parts of Anniston, but we got to put some effort in doing things. We can't keep on choking off downtown and West Anniston and South Anniston and expect it to grow because it won't. You gotta, you got two houses, one is, and build both of them at the same time. One got family in it and one empty. The one that's empty is going to soon crumble. And they're the same age, but we need to find some kind of way to do something economically to bring life back into our city, and it's not happening.
Could I say something on that, Councilman?
Of course.
I just want to understand, one of the things that we did, what you're talking about, we hired a new consultant for our retail and coming in. And one of the things that we're using analytics right now, looking at West Anniston. West Anniston is one of those key spots. Because we got to look at other places in the city. What we got them doing is working with us right now. Matter of fact, next week they'll be in Las Vegas right now to see what we can find that fits West Anniston, fits other areas. But it takes a little time, but we got people working on that right now. One of the key areas we asked them to look at on was West Anniston when they got here. If you look at right now, that's why we're trying to improve the infrastructure, the roads and everything in West Anniston. And we're getting ready to get out this one again, where your sidewalks going to be widened on 15th Street, because again, that's your gateway. So if you're talking about people coming. So we got people looking at that, but it takes a little time, like she said. I'll give you an example for when Winn-Dixie closed in Saks. Because of the pride of the community, and because of the people out there, they got somebody picking it up right away. We've been trying to get somebody in Winn-Dixie for a long time, but it's just but we got new people working on it because what we understand is going to take some time, but we have not forgotten about West Anniston. Just like we were talking about, you said about tearing down. That's one of the a new our community development person. When she came on board, let's talk about building up. So next year, when we're looking at our new schedule, we're looking at what can we build up, not what we tear down. We're working constantly with Housing Authority. We got other areas that Housing Authority owns in West Anniston, and we're working with them now. How do we put this home money in effect? Houses that property that's already ready. What are we going to do? It takes time, but we got an idea. We're working on that. Understand what needs to be done. But we got people working on that, so we have not forgotten West Anniston, the whole city. But when we operate, sometimes we're looking at what helps the whole as well. Because as long as we got that tax base strong, it can help the ones that's weak, and that's what we're working on. So we haven't forgotten.
And I think it's also important to note that a lot of these properties in West Anniston, they are not owned by the city. So we still have to go through due process to own these properties to be able to rehabilitate. And a lot of times when we are rehabilitating, it's done through developers. So like when we do partnerships with Anniston Housing Authority owns these homes. So we're able to give funding through CDBG to redevelop these homes. But the issue is a lot of times these are homes we do not own. And due process takes a lot of time. But I'm 100% there with you as far as we do need to rebuild more than we tear down.
I think a lot of it is really community involved, and also you can't go into somebody's house and just tell them how to build, how to run their house without involving them in the process. And there's a lot of citizens that do have good ideas, but you can't get it from them if you don't meet with them on a constant basis. Not just when the grocery is time to buy groceries. And then you go in the kitchen. You gotta have some contact, and you gotta have some involvement from the citizens. It may be it may just be somebody that doesn't even own a home, but they have ideas that we need to tap into.
I'd just like to say to that is it takes everybody to get involved. And if people are not showing up as a team in every ward or at the council meetings in every ward, they don't know what's going on. They're not involved. They're not trying to find out either. So you can't say that if they're making it available and you're not showing up. That's all.
And I think there's two.
And I'm not saying everybody. I'm just saying in general.
I think this is a good conversation. I think what you're saying is make it more accessible and more available, more frequently.
And you have to go to them, right?
And then you were saying show up when that is.
Exactly.
And I agree with you, and making sure that it's in those neighborhoods. Yes, I'm sorry.
So I talked with HUD recently about what they call a neighborhood strategic revitalization. To see if that's something that I can take before them, they'll have to approve it. And I particularly asked them about West Anniston area. And the first thing they asked me is how likely are the homes that we build there going to be filled? What's the time frame? And so what they look at our education system. They look at all the economic possibilities. They also look at the ratio of how many people don't have housing but are sustainable. So they look at how many people are working, how many people are in apartments. So they look at all these things and they'll assess it, and then they'll come back to me and say, oh, well, you're either likely 80% or above, or if you're below, they won't give us the funding. And so it's like a jigsaw puzzle for me. Everybody holds a piece. Everybody has to bring their piece to the table.
This may be too far down in the weeds, but there's a bill in the legislature right now, I understand it, to shorten the time frame that somebody who has their property seized for taxes to be able to pay that off. I think it's currently 3 years.
It is.
And I believe it is looking at shortening that to 2 years. Would that be beneficial?
Yes.
Again, I feel like we can look at it in two different ways. I don't know if
I'll address that. With the housing authority and the nonprofits we have purchased the tax properties because we can purchase them and have to pay your right for them, which we can purchase lots for $100 a lot. But the problem is you can't get ownership because you have to go through chain after chain after chain to try and get ownership to those properties. We have 61 parcels and/or houses in our HDC, and we can only build on less than 10 of them. And that's what we have proposed with the city. And those are over there by Cobb, over the Cobb Elementary area. So we have already done that. What we need is, and I believe Brian has gone through in the past, and also Dr. Boyd has gone through legislation about getting that right, where the city and the municipality can shorten that, where we don't have to go through all the legal process to get partial. So it is out of some proposal.
Mr. Wright?
That number four doing something. But, couple homes that, you know, they took down, made a promise they're gonna build back up, you know, after before they even tore down up in Volunteer. And I'm looking at all that nice buildings up in Volunteer, that's down at school, man, you put something up there like that, but I know it's a problem with the soil and stuff like that. And I can't understand, how can we let the pie shops and Munster and all of them that contaminate our grounds and then just get away free, you know, on the lead and all this stuff that they're brought into our community, because we didn't bring that into the community. We brought these factories and then we gave them cuts and stuff, and then they hurt the community and then they moved somewhere else. You know, I think that if we're gonna go partnership, we need to go back out there and Marcel again. If they can't contaminate, they go to these pie shops, somebody needs to help. Let's do what we need to do.
And I'm not saying you're wrong in that sense, but I do want to say specifically the Cooper Homes Development area, the issue is not PCB. I believe it's at an unrestricted residential level.
I'll be very brief. We have gone through so many environmentals. We've spent over $100,000 in testing environmentals for Cooper Homes. At this time, it's $3 million to take 6 feet of industrial field off of that property, off of 6 acres. That's to take it off. That's not putting it back. That's not building. And when we go and apply for credits like we did for Water Terrace, the tax credits, it has to be unrestricted residential use. That means you have to make sure that the soil is 100% clean, basically. And you can't guarantee over there at Cooper Homes because you don't look at those all the way to water.
What is the contamination? What is the
Combination is industrial field from pipe shops. It's not PCB, it's not lead.
I'm just saying, because I know pipe shop, they used to, fill in, they would fill in a lot, all over the place.
Yep.
Bring that lead, and then our kids were hard on learning, and didn't know why. But
so right now, we can't secure additional funding for Cooper Homes, so right now, it is not a buildable site for us.
You don't have any legal,
No.
no legal way to force them like Liam saying?
No. I wish we could.
Now, granted, there, and I might be stepping on toes, because this is something Anniston Housing Authority owns, not the city. But there was a conversation that was had in a meeting to offer an engineered solution, which essentially is a tarp that would go on these contamination. I personally, as well as the mayor and other people that were sitting there, didn't quite feel comfortable with agreeing to an engineered solution, saying that this contamination is still here, but now we're going to put some senior citizens on this land just to say we built something. I'm not putting my before we decide to build on that land for it to be 100% clean, for me to feel like I'm doing my due service to you all. Ms. Carter.
So, if I remember correctly, when the pipe shops left, they have an agreement, and you guys might need to check into this, with EPA, that if there were other contaminations found, that EPA is gonna have to clean it up.
Jerry Lamb,
They gave them a
You said the EPA?
They said, okay, that pipe shop said, we're not paying you any more new contamination. So EPA, and if I remember correctly, they were the one that was supposed to be responsible for any additional contamination.
Did you hear anything?
This is the last time I'm up. This is for the chief, I think the same chief, because he has a big lady, he's a young fella. 15th Street, I have a church member who says she can't even sleep at night for the race up and down 15th Street. And then the next thing is that I mentioned this before, and on Quintard, at Little, I think it's Little Caesar or CC Pizza, the people are stopping.
Little Caesars,
That
yeah.
is a hazard. It's a hazard.
So the racing and exhibition driving is the new term that everybody likes to use for what they're doing. They go from 15th and they go down to the intersection right there, Temple Lee O'Neill, and right now, and we chase them around town constantly. They go to church parking lots, they go everywhere doing this stuff. We've had shootings, we've had big fights, we've had all kinds of stuff with these people. And the best we can do when we can catch them, because by the time we get there, they're going to start scattering, and we're only going to get a couple, is a simple traffic ticket. The state of Alabama right now is looking at doing something that makes it more of a criminal activity, more of a misdemeanor arrest that can be made for exhibition driving and things like that. Because it's not only annoying, it's dangerous, and it tears up the city streets. You see the black marks everywhere.
Streets we just paved,
They'll tear up the speed bumps and stuff that we put down there for the motorcycle racing. You know, we put down speed bumps and things, but doesn't really affect the car. You know, the best thing when I tell people we get complaints at the station today is to call when it's happening. Calls when it's happening. We are short personnel at an emergency level that I've never seen before. So when we get a call, we'll get there, and I'll tell you, we'll eventually get there. But we're super short-handed right now. What was the second? The Little Caesars?
Little Caesars.
What's the solution? I don't know what the solution is.
And I don't know if that's necessarily working with Little Caesars.
It's a state road, I know it because it's running through there, but there probably needs to be a sign there that says no standing, because well, they be going down quick all that time. If they're not paying attention, that's a serious accident waiting to happen.
One question I got, you can answer this, is what does that acronym HFI stand for with the office?
Helping Family Initiative. So it's actually a state-funded program that is actually being done right now. Well, it's throughout the state, obviously. But the reason why we thought that this would be a program is utilized at Cleveland County Schools as well as Calhoun County Schools, and they were able to affect truancy or impact truancy positively by 20%, meaning our students, their students in Calhoun County School System and Cleveland County School Systems were attending school more often. What that HFI position does is, let's say a student is not going to school, haven't been there 10 days. That person can go to the house using the DA badge and say, hey, what is the issue going on with your child? What can we do to help? As a parent, what can we do to help you? Are you working really late and you can't wake your child up because you're not getting at work? You know, whatever that situation is, that is specifically what that position is for.
And the second question is for the chief. Last year's graduation, man, sounded like Call of Duty. I knew it was a rough situation. What have y'all got in place right now?
I'm not gonna lie to you. You know what I'm saying? We've got people, and it's the exact same formula last year, and we got a heads up on it this year from some involved community members who don't want to see that happen again. We've got people from outside, not only this city, we've got people from outside this county, from Talladega County, that want to come in here and have a big party, a high school party. They're advertising they're going to do illegal things at that party. So we're doing what we can as a city on the administrative side to shut that down, because it's 4 blocks from Norwood, and I know exactly what's going to happen when that party happens. There will be shootings there.
And
there will be injuries there, and it's absolutely ridiculous to do. The first one last year got moved from its first location to the second location, and our officers did what they could. I think we had 7 people on shift that night. They were there all night, and they're still answering their same calls that they were doing. And it still got injured down there. So, and it's like this folks, we were talking about it this Wednesday, and adults know about these things. Adults know that these things are going on, and keep your children away from those things. Keep your children away. And if this party happens, we've got some things that I'm not going to talk about what we're going to do. I don't want to tip my hand, but we've got some plans in place for the bigger events that we're going to know about. But I specifically will advertise, do not let your children come to these things. Keep children home. I want to see those kids going to college next year. I want to see them in the workforce next year. You know, I don't want to go and answer their calls, going to their mama's house and telling them your child's not coming home for you this year.
And, I also had an experience, you know, knowing that y'all were short-handed. The murder that happened, it actually prevented a situation I had being addressed in a timely manner. Still haven't been addressed all the way. But I know y'all have a program where you're trying to have more outreach in the community. What other ideas do you have to get more people involved in the community? Because I've never seen a community where people live in it, but they don't want to even be police officers in it. Right. I mean, from what I understand, there's no police officers from Anniston on Anniston Police Force coming out of the state.
There's a few. I can name you a handful. But so I'll address this on a couple of those. the fire department's been beating our brains in with recruiting from the schools and getting from schools because they can. They just the way that their system is set up, they can have a senior coming out of high school with a certain amount of certifications ready to go to work the next day and get them in the program to start that certification down the road. We can't. We're bound by state law. You can't be a certified police officer. I can't legally certify you in anything until you're 19, and that's through the state, through all that. So what we did, a combination of one of my lieutenants and some brainstorm between me and the captain, we came up with the program, the YES program, that we're about to integrate with the city's YES program, where we can start taking kids as young as 16 who have the ability to drive and start to bring them in, because I was interested in law enforcement when I was 16, 17, or they weren't. Cleveland County, where I'm from, they're like, get out of here, you're 19, and come in here. So, we want to start bringing them in and letting them do ride-alongs and taking them on, little law enforcement excursions and letting them see what we do and start to teach them things informally, but they're going to volunteer for this, and it's a commitment from them. And then I've got it, I've been talking to our HR director about bringing them with us, like this weekend on the Nova Street Festival. We would have a mentor, let's say I'm a mentor of a kid. He would be with me the entire time working at Nova Street Festival. He's in his uniform, he or she is in their uniform specific for them. It just makes them feel part of the team. Now, when they get done, what I want them to do is to apply with us and come with us. We've already built some loyalty with them, right? And they're ready to come to us. They know us. They know the city. They know the people in the building. They know the people in the city. And we're ready to integrate. But if they go on to another law enforcement, career job, that's all well and good. But that's the kind of route we're doing right there. And we have been for years. We've always tried to do, something. We really hope this works. We've got a lot of people in our department who want to be mentors to these kids, and that's where we're going to go. We also need buy-in from the residents of the city. We need buy-in from parents. What she's talking about goes hand in hand in truancy. The parents have to be involved with raising the kids right. And making sure they're doing the right thing and hanging around the right people. And a lot of times that's hard. Mama can't always control that if she's the only one there working, and little Johnny's out doing whatever he's got to do, in the streets after school, and the streets are raising him, and that group of kids are raising that child really and taking them along that route. And then we're talking about starting from the culture started in the 80s when I was a kid on no snitching, don't talk to the police and all that stuff. And now that's all I know. There's no other option. You don't have an option. They're going to handle their own business, and that's where we see a lot of the shootings in the city is they won't cooperate. John shot you. He did, and you're not going to cooperate because you're going to get out of the hospital and you're going to get your boys. You're going to go right on their house and shoot them up. And it's absolutely heartbreaking for me and frustrating because they will not cooperate. And then I'm going to end up talking to all the families and reading all their obituaries because they end up killing each other. And it's happened time and time again. It just happened to that Brown kid over here. One of them's in prison and the other one's in the ground. And that is literally, if they don't get out of the game, that's the road they're going.
And they're having children, and those children grow up in an environment where they have this imaginary being with one another, and it continues and continues and continues. We think that it's just going to stop when they kill each other. It doesn't, because they have kids that are going to grow up. Well, your daddy killed my daddy, or my daddy in prison because your daddy. It's a constant cycle that continues to happen, and it's been that way for decades. Another thing to that point, we have an Anniston Police Advisory Committee that I talked about bringing in 50 million times as far as my 27, which is why I said we need to reinvent the Anniston Police Advisory Committee, because I think that they can play a really good part in that relationship building, even if maybe that's not what it was originally established for, but I do think that they can play a part in establishing that relationship with our police officers and also tipping us on what's going on in the community. So if there is a big party that's going to happen at some motorcycle club or at some privately owned building, we know how to address that, because at this point, our kids are ruthless and they don't care about anyone else's lives, let alone theirs. So
I will say they do. I get a lot of calls, weekends, holidays. I get a lot of calls from several members of that board, and they do. And on several murders, I get calls from them about this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm hearing. So they do that. They were set up as more of a conduit for people who didn't feel comfortable coming directly to the police department to address an issue or a complaint, and it was people from the neighborhood that they knew, and they could not route them that way.
Do they even have meetings anymore?
They have meetings when they're called, when they have something to bring to them.
Okay, because I know when we first started, they used to have meetings, and the public was invited to come to those meetings, and then they stopped. But I have a question for the CBDG.
Ms. Carter, 1 second. He has had his hand up for like 10 minutes. I'll make sure I get him real quick.
Yeah, I'm from Glendale, and I drive every day back and forth Glendale. And Council Town, they need more patrol in their Can police check ID card? Ain't that private property over in the hospital area?
It's Anniston Housing Authority property. And I don't necessarily know if we can get people for just.
The back up there, they surround the area and drink. You go through every day.
Are they in the road or are they in the
No, they
parking
back
lot?
up. You know, sidewalk. You sit there and they drink. Everybody see kids be running around there. That's where a lot of that stuff come from. You know what I mean? Kids grow up.
Yes, sir.
They don't use no example. They sit there drinking. You come. I don't think they belong in the house area. But if that, can police stop and check ID card on my private property?
We can put in a patrol request to have them
You know,
patrol
you
for.
go by there, you see them walking outside, and you can, don't you supposed to check the ID card, do you belong here, or?
So if they're out in the public drinking, that's a violation of the law anyway, so.
Well,
they can get out, but I'm not saying we don't. What I'm saying is, I'll tell you where we are. I was 15 people short a couple of weeks ago. We hired 2. Sounds great. I just got notice I'm losing 4 in the next couple of months between retirements and people leaving. So we're bleeding people. We're trying as best we can to get this.
Some of them think on the east side, some of the police don't leave the west side.
Well, we have to.
You can see exactly what you want to see.
What's your name? Mr. Carr, I 100% agree with you. We're going to put in a patrol request to make sure we do our due diligence. As he said, we are very limited.
But can you check ID card? Give me out. Can y'all check ID card? You supposed to be on here, we out and check them.
They're going to say I'm over here visiting 1A.
Well, they drink, if they have drink, not that drinking. You can see it for yourself.
Mr. Carr, I'm going to get with you after this. We're going to continue this conversation. All right.
Okay, drive-by shooting. I'm a victim of a drive-by shooting.
Yes, ma'am.
I fell on Constantine Avenue, right? Okay, it's been about 2 years more. Nothing has been done. Nothing. Bullet holes are still there. So then last year, they had that party, all in my yard, shooting and drinking over there on Front Street. What is going to be done about any of this?
Until we get people who want to cooperate and see it handled, our hands are tied. If we don't have evidence, if we don't have information to make a case on someone, we can't do anything.
Well, I gave them all the cases that I picked up out my yard.
Yes, ma'am. But we have to have a weapon to match that to. We have to have other casings to match that to.
They had 100-some casings. None of them matching nothing.
I had to match them to a person.
Can you tell me your name?
You got to have a gun to see the case thing.
Well, you know they ain't leave guns.
Excuse me, what's your name?
I'm not saying.
Okay, well, maybe after we can.
No, the after we're gonna do.
Yes, ma'am. All right, next question.
I have, with her situation, is there a way that y'all can have y'all thought about putting cameras in the Constantine area?
There are cameras.
There are cameras.
Yeah, there are installed and they'll solve cases.
What about the other areas outside, right down the street from Constantine, like where I live, Jones Hill, and places like that? We don't have a lot of crime going on over there, but still, like on Wilkerson Drive, I know there's a lot of drug dealers that hang out down there. I don't even like driving through there because they hang out in the streets and stuff like that. I just, wanted to know, y'all, I know y'all can't tell us what the cameras are and stuff like that.
No, you can see them. They got blue light flash on. I want people to see that.
I was just wondering, is it possible to put more cameras down in those areas?
Everything's possible. It just takes dollar bills. It just takes money to do that, and that obviously goes back to the amount of crime, the amount of people that are in that area. If there's a place that's a public parking lot, maybe like a church parking lot or a store parking lot that would allow us, we have a couple of mobile cameras that we can park. We can't put those on private property or look in the backyards and things like that. We have to respect, people's rights too. But there's other options.
Send me an email with the street that you're talking about, and we'll assess it as well. Ms. Carter, I need you.
Okay, I wanted to ask her, the CBDG funds that you get for repairs, how many applicants do you have, and how many has been addressed?
So there is no specific thing that the funds have to go to. I'll start with that. So there's no specific funding for repairs specifically. It's just we get a lump sum funding. We typically try to use, World Changers, and it just depends on how many volunteers they get, because it saves us funding because we don't pay for labor. There's a volunteer program.
Okay, because I thought he said, each person could apply for $2,500.
That's not our program.
Yeah, it's the Anniston Changers, which is separate.
Separate from our department.
So the city don't have any program for repairing of houses other than, so why is Anniston Changer the only one? The city used to have programs that, well, I'm talking about the repair for the old people's houses.
No,
So let me address all of this all at one time, because it can be confusing. So World Changers is a program, they're their own entity that we do use, that we do give funding to do repairs in our community for different things externally. Anniston Changers is a totally different program that's doing something of their own, with their own grant funds. But there is no funding that particularly needs to go towards home repair. This is something we offer because it's something the community sometimes needs, but we'll never have enough funding to fix everybody who requires it. Who asks us for it, we'll never have enough funding to fix everybody. They did do some home repairs previously through the West Anniston Foundation and Northeast Alabama Community Development. But both of those entities currently are not doing home repairs for the city.
And our funds come from donations, so we raise the money we use to build to repair homes. And the credit union, I think, I'm not sure how they go about it, but the community foundation holds both of those funds, and we have a volunteer board that reviews applications and does the home repairs.
And while I have you, and Habitat is offering, they're going to do some repairs soon, but they need people to let them know what areas need that. So they posted it on their social media. Habitat Director Amanda Penson, you can call them. If your area is somewhere you think could use home repairs and use some type of cleanup, they're offering those services, so you may want to talk to them as well.
What about corporate partners?
For
Repair homes.
with us, we don't have any corporate funding because we don't raise any funds. So that would be.
No, any corporation, if they wanted to, could donate.
Well, there was a program in Anniston several years ago that Alabama Gas, which is Spire now, was affiliated with. They did weatherization to homes, and company paid for the majority of it. And then the city, we used the school system to give kids summer jobs, and they would get out of school at a certain time. My son was part of it for a little while, but there was corporate partnership going through a lot of different organizations, Alabama Power, Alabama Gas, and I know that Oxford has a good supply of businesses now that maybe we could form some sort of coalition, because if we can help Jacksonville and Weaver, we'll give them some kind of money at any time, then maybe those other cities in the county should be able to.
That's if they will.
Yeah, they should be able to reciprocate.
They should. But it's if they will. That's the biggest thing in getting other municipalities or businesses in other municipalities to work with the city of Anniston. I think we're doing well in fostering those relationships. We are further on than where we used to be, I will say, but the biggest thing is we will. And I'm trying to wrap this up for you all because I know you got things to do. I'm going to take a couple more questions and I'm going to go over one thing communication-wise, and then I'm going to get you on out of here.
This, what he said about that shortage with the police is a pressing issue, y'all. I don't know if y'all realize this or not, but when he's talking about the shortage of the police, this needs to be a huge topic. Everybody in there needs to worry about that, and there doesn't need to be a situation where something hits the fan, and then that's when you realize what he meant by shorthanded with the police. Before Ciara ran, I mentioned government day. Pretty much all the city officials are going to have a part in the government day. And we spoke about the influence of the children, getting people involved in the community. That government day would be huge on the mental impact of small children and high school children, the 16-year-olds and the 12-year-olds and the 9-year-olds. At 7 or 8, when they see the cop cars and the fire trucks coming to the different schools picking up people, You don't know how much impact that would have. But I can tell you, as an old black man, used to be a young black man, and talking to a lot of my friends and younger people right now, they still want to be cops when they grow up. I mean, that used to be something that we wanted to do when we were young. People wanted to be police. So it won't be that easy, but that does need to be some influence starting at a very young age, because they have too many other influences that they are being that are catching their mind.
Personal story, real quick. This is me personally. We lived in the projects in Texas. I lived with my uncle, but my mom went to Florida and tried to get us a house ready to go. We lived all around when I was a kid. And my uncle was not a good man. My aunt was not a good woman. They were not doing what they were supposed to be doing. And we're riding around, or driving wherever they're going. The police, they tell us, get out, get out, get out. So they had us all scared of the police. Right. But then once I became, and I'm in third grade. I'm in third grade. I can remember that like it was yesterday. But then we moved from North Carolina to here, where my mom was from. And then I got with a friend group, and I'm in high school. I get with a friend group, and he wanted to be a cop. He wanted to be the police. So I started looking at that and started actually watching cops. And him and his brother were my influential group that I hung out with. I could have easily hung out with some other dirtbag boys and, been over there stealing cars and stealing copper right now. You know what I mean? Doing the same thing. But I hung out with him, and that's the path that we chose as young men. And you're exactly right. So it's those groups.
So is there any progress on that?
So Oxford City Schools has a really excellent government day program that I think we could possibly model ours after. The kids have a really good time. They get to arrest their police officers, like they get to pretend to be a city council member, they get to pretend to be a judge, and we're right there with them. Someone can be a city manager. Like, it's a really fun program that I think that we really can implement, and I need to take that more seriously. It would be in conjunction with our school system, so we're going to have to work on seeing how that would be feasible with our school. And I think that's a really good idea. I need to take that seriously. Yes, Mr. Wright.
And I don't know how sharp they are with the police, but you go down there on Wednesday, they go down to the city court to fool. And a lot of them talking about you in turning blanket on you didn't go 100 feet and all this kind of stuff. I think the police need a little bit more adjustment to start getting a relationship with the community instead of, every time you see them, they be afraid of, well, you came to a stop sign, you didn't slow down and stop. I seen the time when people used to be stopped and the police would take them home. But the things have changed, but I think if we're going to get a good relationship, we're going to have to start working together with each other. Yeah.
I think working together is a really good point. But we also got to be more mindful that we got to stop at a stop sign to stop at a stop sign. I have issues with it. We got to be more mindful if we are swerving over the road, make sure we're staying in our lane. So I think it's a two-way street. We got to do what we're supposed to do because we don't want to break the law. And that's how we force that relationship with them and work together. I think it's just a two-way street as a whole. So I agree with you. We do need to do better enforcing that relationship. One last thing, Councilman Roberts.
I wasn't going to say nothing, but when we brought up the police, one of the first things we did when we got elected as council, we got a retreat. And they told us how much the police made. And I said, you got to be effing kidding. Police, that's what I said. And I apologize after that. Police at that time on me, become an Anniston police officer, you got to pay $15. That's a change. When you can go to Walmart and make $15 start to grow. So when we talk about why people don't want to become the police, and I pushed, and the city actually gave as much as we could out of our budget at that time to elevate up $15. Now, the question is, would you want to be a police officer with your life on the line with all of the guns these young men have for $15? So now that's one of the reasons we have a lack of interest. So, but once we...
Excuse me, Mr. Red. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Roberts.
Well, I mean, he gonna know anytime after you
It's
go.
$15. No, come on, man. You know they pay
Mr. Ray. Mr. Ray. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, everything I said, I promise you, that's the public record. Yes, we did. We put it for them to get a raise, but an entry level for the police officer, if I'm not mistaken, was $15, $17. So now we did push to get them a raise, and now they're like second in the city. But a lot of the things, we miss out on a lot of revenue because of a lot of illegal things that go on in Anniston. Right, what you gotta understand is, if you're operating the illegal business and you're not paying the revenues, but something happens, you want the police to come, and the police don't show up, then the city always gets blamed. So when we talk about the, yes, we need everybody working together, and trust me, you would not want to be a police officer for $15.
It's not $2 added, I will say that. One last thing, go ahead.
One thing we have to, first alphabet on that screen right there is Q. We need more than just quantity in police, we need quality. I'd rather have one good policeman than to have 5 suspects. Because a lot of people bring their attitudes, their personal attitudes to their job. I mean, all of us had jobs, and everybody here took their personal feelings to their job. Everybody did. And I don't want a policeman that's not there and that's there for the money. I want somebody that's gonna be there for what he can do for the community.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. So we're about to end this. If you have any more additional questions, you can come up to me afterwards. I do want to give everyone my number. I actually have 2 phones. I originally had a personal and a work phone. I chose to have a work phone because people were not calling me for appropriate things. And so I chose that. However, more people still call me on my personal phone than my work phone. So I'm just gonna do away with the work phone and just keep using my personal phone. It's a black book. So I say all this to say, I will be requesting that Jackson takes off the number that is on our website, the 343 number, and be turning in that phone, and I will continue to use my personal. So if you need it, just let me know. My email is still the same as well. Also, one last thing. If there is crime happening in your area and you do not want to tell, we have a link where you can give an anonymous tip where you can put names if you want to, of who's doing what, and we do not know that it's you. So if that's something that you want to do, I believe it's on our website as well. Just a tool to tell people around here. So I hope this was informative. I'm going to do my best to do this again. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I may not get to you right then and there, but I promise I'm going to get back to you as soon as possible. There was a couple people I asked to stay back just so I can talk with you. Other than that, thank you all for coming.
Next time, can you come sign in?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.